The road was quiet, too quiet. A single stretch of asphalt cut through the dark countryside like a scar under the moonlight. The hum of the engine was steady, almost soothing, but inside the car, tension brewed beneath the calm. Maya Reynolds drove with precision. Every mile marker passed in rhythm with her steady breathing. She had just left a classified intelligence briefing that would keep most people awake for days. But Maya wasn't most people. She was the new deputy director of the National Security Bureau, a woman who had built her career on staying calm under pressure. But tonight, something felt off. The highway was empty, no taillights, no headlights, just the occasional flash of a distant street lamp. And yet, in her rearview mirror, a sudden burst of red and blue tore through the darkness. Her heart didn't skip a beat. It slowed down. Maya checked her speed. 65. Exactly the limit. She wasn't swerving, wasn't breaking any laws. Still, the cruiser behind her stayed glued to her bumper, lights flaring like a silent warning. For a moment, she wondered if this was a mistake. Then instinct whispered something else, something colder. This wasn't a stop. This was a test. She pulled over, careful and deliberate, her hands gripping the steering wheel. The engine idled quietly as she waited. The flashing lights kept strobing across her windshield, painting her face in waves of red and blue. Seconds passed. Too many. The officer behind her didn't move. Years of fieldwork had taught her to read silence. And this silence screamed one thing: control. Someone was taking their time on purpose. Finally, the door of the patrol car opened. A man stepped out. He wasn't tall, but there was something in the way he moved. A kind of swagger that had nothing to do with confidence and everything to do with power. His name tag caught the light for half a second. Officer Grant Holden. He walked slowly, flashlight in one hand, the other hovering near his gun. The beam cut across her face and lingered there far too long. Maya kept her voice steady. "Evening, officer. Is there a problem?" No response. Just a flat mechanical tone. License and registration, no greeting. No explanation. Nothing about why she was being stopped. Maya inhaled through her nose, keeping her composure. "May I ask what the reason is for the stop?" Holden didn't blink. License, registration. Something in his voice made her skin crawl. She moved slowly, keeping her hands visible. "I'm reaching for my wallet," she said, calm and measured. Years of de-escalation training echoed in her mind. Every motion was intentional. When she handed him her ID and credentials, the flashlight caught the glint of the badge. His eyes scanned the gold lettering. "National Security Bureau?" he muttered. "Yes, sir," she said. For a moment, his jaw tightened. Then came the words that made her pulse spike. "Step out of the vehicle." The request wasn't loud, but it landed heavy. Maya blinked once, holding her tone. "Is there a reason for that, officer?" Holden didn't answer. His hand twitched near his holster. Step out. There it was. The kind of order meant not to protect, but to provoke. Something inside Maya stirred. A quiet storm. She'd worked beside law enforcement her whole career, but she had also read too many internal reports, seen too many names turned into statistics. This moment didn't feel procedural. It felt personal. Her instincts screamed, "He wants a reaction." She stayed still. "Officer, you're not following protocol. Please step back." That did it. His expression cracked. He slammed his palm against the roof of her car, hard. The bang echoed across the lonely highway. A violent punctuation in the quiet night. "I said get out." Her eyes met his, unflinching, calculating. On what grounds? For a split second he froze. He hadn't expected resistance. Then his smirk returned, nastier this time. Suspicious behavior. Maya's voice was steel. "Being calm is suspicious?" He took a step closer. "Lady, I don't care what badge you've got. You're getting out of that car." Maya could feel the danger sharpening, drawing in around her like a noose. But fear wasn't what she felt, it was focus. This wasn't going to end quietly. She had spent her life preparing for crisis moments. And this was one. Then, before she could respond, headlights appeared behind the cruiser. A second patrol car back up for a heartbeat, she thought, relief. Then the unease twisted deeper. The second officer stepped out. Officer Blake Turner, taller, bulkier, the kind of presence that filled the air like a threat. He didn't even glance at Holden. "Just said, a problem here?" Holden's smirk widened. "Just a non-compliant driver. Non-compliant." That single word turned her stomach. It was how stories like this always started. She looked from one man to the other, both standing in the glow of their lights, their silhouettes blocking every path of escape. "Ma'am," Turner said, "step out of the vehicle. Not Director Reynolds. Not Agent Reynolds. Just ma'am." Maya had led raids across continents, negotiated hostage releases, stared down terrorists. But this moment, the casual menace in their tone felt heavier than any of it. If she made the wrong move, she wouldn't just lose her career. She might lose her life. She inhaled slowly, then reached for the door handle. The night air was cold, sharp, real. She stepped out. Her heels hit the pavement, and everything changed. Holden's stance shifted, blocking the dash cam's view. Turner moved slightly behind him, cutting off any witnesses, if there were any at all. Her mind clicked into survival mode. "Officer, I need you to tell me why I'm being detained," she said. Holden tilted his head. Suspicious behavior. What behavior? Refusing to follow orders. It was a trap. She knew it. Every choice from here on out was a move in someone else's power game. Then it happened. Holden reached for her wrist. Too fast, too tight. Maya jerked back, her voice slicing through the air. "Let go of me." He didn't. Turner took a step closer. "We got a problem here?" Holden's grip tightened. She's resisting. Another word loaded like a bullet. And then, in a blur of motion, Holden's hand dropped to his gun. The world froze. The barrel pointed straight at her face. The world felt like it stopped breathing. Maya didn't blink. Her training kept her grounded, but even the best training couldn't prepare anyone for the sight of a gun aimed inches from their face. Her hands lifted slowly, palms open. Her voice came out low and even. "You're making a serious mistake, Officer Holden." He didn't lower the gun. His jaw was tight, his finger twitching against the trigger guard. "You think that badge makes you untouchable?" For the first time, she saw it clearly, the power rush in his eyes. He wasn't afraid. He was enjoying this. Turner stood a few feet behind, watching, silent. His hand hovered near his holster too, but he didn't intervene. Not yet. The air between them was electric, the kind of silence that could shatter into chaos with one wrong word. Maya's mind raced. Every move had to be calculated, every word chosen like defusing a bomb. "Officer Holden," she said carefully, "you're out of line. I am a federal officer, and this—" He cut her off, stepping closer, the muzzle of the gun steady now. "You think that means anything to me?" For a brief second, the thought flashed through her mind. He's done this before. The confidence wasn't new. It was practiced. Her heart didn't race, but her focus narrowed to a single point. Survival. And then, from somewhere down the road, a voice broke the silence. "Hey, I'm recording this." The sound hit the air like a lightning strike. Holden's head turned sharply toward the voice instinctively. Maya saw her chance to breathe. Just a second, but enough. A man stood on the shoulder of the road, his phone raised high, its light glowing like a beacon. "You sure you want to pull that trigger, officer?" He called out. That single voice shifted the balance. The tension cracked. Holden didn't lower the gun right away, but his body language changed. He was thinking, calculating. The confidence in his stance wavered. Turner moved, his eyes flicking from the camera to Holden. "Grant," he muttered, "put it down." Holden ignored him. "Tell that guy to stop filming." Maya didn't move. Her voice sharpened. "No one's stopping anything. You draw that weapon again, and this turns into more than a career mistake." She saw the flicker of uncertainty in his face. He'd been in control the whole time until now. From behind them, faint but growing louder, came another sound. Sirens. Real backup. Holden heard them too. His grip faltered. For the first time, fear crept into his eyes. "Put it down," Turner repeated, his voice tighter this time. Holden's chest rose and fell rapidly. The weapon trembled slightly before he finally lowered it, the metal glinting in the cruiser's flashing lights. Maya didn't relax. Not yet. She knew how fast situations like this could twist back around. The man with the phone called out again. "Got all of it on camera, lady." "Every second." Holden's glare shot toward him. "Get that thing out of my face." Maya's tone cut through the air like steel. "Touch him, and I'll have both of you charged with obstruction of justice." For the first time, Turner stepped back. His hand dropped away from his weapon. His gaze shifted between them, reading the situation, feeling it slip away. The sirens were close now, echoing against the flat road until they surrounded the scene. Blue and red lights danced across every surface. Multiple squad cars screeched to a stop. Tires spitting gravel. Holden froze. Turner froze. The camera didn't. Doors slammed open, and several officers stepped out uncertain, hands near their belts but not drawn. Then one of them recognized her. Deputy Director Reynolds? Maya's chin lifted slightly. Yes, and I want these 2 officers detained now. The command hit the air with authority. Unshakable. Turner stepped back, his face pale. Holden's eyes darted wildly from her to the new arrivals. This is a misunderstanding, Holden muttered, the words weak, unraveling. Maya's expression didn't change. Then you can explain it in a statement. After you're processed, one of the arriving lieutenants gave a short nod. Officers Holden and Turner, place your weapons on the ground and step back. The silence that followed was deafening. Holden's jaw flexed. You've got to be kidding me. The lieutenant didn't blink. Do it. For a moment, it looked like Holden might fight it. Then, with a visible tremor of fury, he unfastened the holster and set his gun on the pavement. Maya stood still, the night air buzzing around her. She didn't look away as they were cuffed. Turner didn't resist. He just lowered his head as if realizing how far he'd gone. Holden, though, he glared, eyes burning with disbelief. You're making a big mistake, Reynolds. Her tone was cold. No, the mistake was thinking power meant protection. He said nothing. The cuffs clicked shut, and just like that, the same silence that had once been her danger became her victory. But she didn't feel relief. She felt responsibility. As the officers were led toward the patrol cars, the man with the phone slowly lowered his camera. Their eyes met. You okay? He asked softly. Maya nodded. Thanks to you. He hesitated, then said, They do this all the time. Just not to people who can fight back. That sentence hit her harder than the entire confrontation, because he was right. The lights, the sirens, the noise, all of it faded behind the truth that echoed louder than anything else. This wasn't rare. It was just finally seen. She took a deep breath and turned to the lieutenant. I want their records pulled and internal affairs notified immediately. He nodded hesitantly. Understood. Maya wasn't finished. This isn't going away. Not this time. The lieutenant didn't argue. No one did. By the time the scene cleared, dawn had started to edge over the horizon. The night had ended, but what came next was only beginning. By sunrise, the world already knew her name. Not because of the title she carried, but because of what had happened on that road. The footage had spread fast. Too fast for anyone to contain it. One video from a stranger's phone was now everywhere. The flashing lights, the drawn gun, the sound of her calm voice against their anger. People replayed it, argued over it, analyzed every second. But for Maya, there was no satisfaction in it. She didn't want to be a headline. She wanted accountability. Her office felt colder than usual that morning. The blinds were still drawn, but the light of a dozen notifications glowed from her desk. Emails from the Justice Department, calls from the media, messages from colleagues who didn't know what to say. She ignored them all. What she wanted was a meeting. One with answers. When she entered the main briefing room of the bureau, everyone fell silent. She didn't say a word at first. She just placed a thin folder on the table. Officer Grant Holden and Officer Blake Turner, she said finally. I want their disciplinary records, every complaint, every incident, pulled and reviewed. Her assistant swallowed. Ma'am, local jurisdiction, then make it federal, she interrupted. Her tone wasn't raised, but the authority in it filled the room. If they've done this before, we'll find out. There was no hesitation after that. While the team began compiling reports, Maya sat alone for a moment, staring at her reflection in the glass. The woman looking back at her didn't seem shaken, just resolute. But inside, something deeper was stirring. She had seen the cracks in the system before. She'd worked around them. But now she'd lived them, and she wasn't going to let this one slip through like all the others. Hours passed. The reports came in, complaints that had been resolved internally, suspensions quietly lifted, witnesses silenced. It was worse than she expected. Turner had 3 prior misconduct cases. Holden had 5. 5, and not a single one had reached the courts. The paper trail was there, but no one had followed it. Until now. Maya leaned back in her chair, fingers pressed together. Send copies to the Attorney General's office. I want internal affairs notified and a federal investigation opened by noon. Her assistant hesitated. This will cause a stir. Maya's voice was steady. Good, maybe it's time for one. By midday, the storm had begun. News networks looped the footage, analysts debated it, and social media was ablaze. Words like abuse of power and racial profiling flooded every screen, but the truth behind those words wasn't abstract. It had faces, names, reports, and silence that had gone on for years. She watched it all unfold from her office window, the city buzzing beneath her. Her phone vibrated again, an unknown number. This time she answered. A man's voice came through, hesitant but familiar. It's me, the one who recorded that night. Maya straightened. You've been brave to come forward. I just wanted you to know, he said quietly. I didn't do it for attention. I did it because people need to see what happens when the cameras aren't there. For the first time that day, Maya's voice softened. You did the right thing. You reminded the world that silence protects no one. He was quiet for a long moment before saying, They'll come after you for this, won't they? She smiled faintly, though he couldn't see it. They can try. After the call ended, she sat still, letting the words sink in. This wasn't just about 2 officers anymore. It was about every moment where fear had disguised itself as authority. The Bureau's communication line buzzed to life, an incoming call from the Department of Justice. The announcement was brief but monumental, a full-scale federal investigation into misconduct and abuse of power within local enforcement agencies. It wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was a start. Outside cameras were already gathering at the Bureau gates. Reporters called her name, demanding statements, sound bites. Outraged, she didn't give them any of that. When she finally stepped to the podium, her words were deliberate, slow, and cutting through the noise. This is not an isolated event, she said. This is the result of a culture that excuses intimidation as procedure. It stops now. We cannot call it justice if it only works for some. The room was silent when she finished. Not because they didn't have questions, but because they didn't know how to ask them anymore. That night, Maya went home to an apartment that felt unfamiliar. The walls seemed quieter, the city below softer. She poured herself a glass of water and watched the skyline. Her reflection in the window looked almost like a stranger. Calm, tired but certain of one thing. This wasn't over. Somewhere across town, Holden sat in a holding cell, his hands cuffed, his expression twisted between anger and disbelief. Turner sat beside him, silent, eyes hollow. For the first time, they were the ones without control, and the weight of that was only beginning to settle. The truth was no longer hidden. It had a witness. It had a voice. And Maya Reynolds wasn't going to let it fade into the background ever again. Days blurred together. Every headline carried her name now, and not everyone said it kindly. Talk shows speculated about her motives. Commentators questioned her professionalism. Anonymous sources hinted that she was making trouble for the sake of attention. But Maya didn't care. The noise didn't matter. What mattered were the files stacked in front of her. Proof of a pattern that stretched far beyond one highway stop. Hundreds of pages. Complaints filed and ignored. Reports rewritten to protect reputations. Every line told the same story. Power without oversight. Fear without consequence. By the end of the week, the investigation had widened. Dozens of officers were being reviewed. Some suspended. Others quietly resigning before their names went public. Maya sat in her office late one night, long after the others had gone home. The city lights shimmered below, and the only sound was the hum of the ventilation. She wasn't tired. She was burning. Her computer screen flickered with the live feed of a press conference, her own agency's leadership, distancing themselves from her decision. They called it an independent initiative. They called her uncompromising. The word was meant to sting. It didn't, because she was uncompromising. That's how you broke cycles, by refusing to bend where everyone else did. Then came the message. A secure notification flashing across her phone. Anonymous sender. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a short video clip, grainy, time-stamped 2 years earlier. A different officer. A different highway. The same playbook. The footage was almost identical to what she had lived through. A woman stopped at night. A conversation that turned into a confrontation. A weapon drawn. Except this time there was no witness. The clip ended abruptly. No conclusion. No justice. Her stomach tightened. She didn't need to know the outcome. She already did. Someone had sent this to her on purpose. A warning or a plea. Before she could think further, her office phone rang. The line was internal. She picked it up. "Deputy Director Reynolds," said a voice she recognized instantly. The Bureau's director. Her superior. "Maya, we need to talk." "I figured," she replied. "I'm getting calls from everywhere. State officials, police unions, even the governor's office. They're saying your investigation is overstepping." Maya leaned back, letting the weight of his words settle. "Overstepping," she repeated quietly. "Or finally doing its job." A pause. Then, "You're walking a fine line, Maya. You're making enemies fast." She smiled faintly, though there was no humor in it. "Then they should start behaving like they have something to lose." The silence that followed told her everything. The system wasn't just resisting her. It was afraid of her. After the call ended, she forwarded the anonymous video to the investigation team with a single message. "Find her. She deserves to be known." The next few days were chaos. Whistleblowers began stepping forward. Dispatchers, junior officers, even retired sergeants. The cracks were widening faster than anyone could seal them. Every interview revealed a new layer of rot. Unreported incidents, intimidation, patterns buried under paperwork. One afternoon, as Maya left a meeting, a young intern stopped her in the hallway. "Ma'am," he said nervously, "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" she asked, "for not backing down." "My brother. He didn't make it home from a stop like that." Maya's throat tightened. The boy couldn't have been older than 20. His eyes held the kind of loss that no one that age should carry. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make sure no one else goes through that." The words felt heavier than anything she'd said on camera, because she meant them. That night she returned home to find an unmarked envelope slipped under her door. Inside, no note, no return address, was a printed copy of her own personnel file. A red circle drawn around one line. Security clearance level top confidential. It wasn't subtle. It was a message. Someone inside the system wanted her to know they were watching. For a moment she stood still, listening to the hum of the apartment. The quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loaded, but she didn't flinch. She placed the file on her kitchen counter, poured herself a glass of water, and said aloud to the empty room, "You can watch all you want. I'm not stopping." The city outside her window pulsed with restless light, but she was calm. The truth had momentum now, and she intended to let it run. Rain tapped against the windows that night like impatient fingers. The storm outside mirrored the one closing in around Maya. The investigation had blown open doors no one wanted unlatched. Politicians were panicking. Departments were scrambling to protect reputations. And somewhere in that chaos, the truth had turned dangerous. Her phone vibrated again. Another anonymous message. This one was shorter. 2 words. "Stop digging." She stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without a second thought. Fear was what they wanted. Silence was what they needed. They would get neither. The next morning, Maya arrived at headquarters early. The air felt different, heavier, watchful. A few coworkers avoided her eyes. Others nodded respectfully but cautiously, as if being seen with her was a risk. That only fueled her resolve. By mid-afternoon, the Justice Department's audit team arrived. Their presence meant the investigation had become national. Agents carried boxes of files, hard drives, and sealed evidence bags through the Bureau's front doors. Every flash of a camera outside told her this was no longer just a case. It was a reckoning. Then came the meeting she'd been expecting. The director called her in again, his expression carved from stone. "Maya, you've started something that's spiraling beyond control." "Good," she replied. He rubbed his temple. "Do you understand the backlash this will cause? There are careers, lives. People are already losing their lives," she cut in, her voice low but sharp. "If the system can't survive the truth, then it doesn't deserve to." The words hung in the air like a challenge. He didn't answer. When she stepped out of his office, her assistant rushed toward her, pale-faced. "Ma'am, you need to see this." He handed her a tablet. A live news broadcast was streaming. Officer Grant Holden's attorney was speaking at a press conference. He called her actions politically motivated, claimed she'd abused her power for personal gain. It was an orchestrated smear campaign. The reporter's questions turned ugly fast. The attorney smirked. This is what happens when someone confuses justice with revenge. Maya watched silently, jaw tight. Then she handed the tablet back. Get me a statement ready. We're not playing defense. We're playing offense. That evening, she stood before the cameras again. The rain had stopped, but thunder still rumbled somewhere distant. She didn't read from notes. She spoke from the place that all the training and titles couldn't touch, the raw human core of why she'd started this. Justice isn't about power, she said. It's about accountability, and accountability doesn't disappear when it becomes inconvenient. Every person who hides behind a badge, behind a title, behind a system that protects them instead of the public, they will be held to the same standard as anyone else. Her voice was steady, but the anger in it was real. It wasn't rage. It was conviction. The statement went viral within the hour. Support poured in from across the country. Communities that had felt invisible finally saw someone standing up inside the system instead of outside it. But victory didn't come quietly. Late that night, her building lost power for exactly 6 minutes. When the lights flickered back on, her front door was ajar. Inside, her living room was untouched except for one thing, her investigation board. All the documents pinned there were gone. She stood in the doorway, unmoving. Whoever had done it hadn't come to threaten her. They'd come to erase her work, but what they didn't know was that she had backups, secure, encrypted, and already distributed to trusted contacts across multiple agencies. For the first time in days, she smiled. A small, knowing smile. She walked over to her kitchen counter, picked up the coffee mug she hadn't touched since morning, and whispered, "Too late." The next day, the Justice Department released its findings. Multiple officers across state and local departments were indicted. 3 police chiefs resigned within hours. Dozens of internal files surfaced showing years of cover-ups. And among them was one detail that stunned the public. The anonymous video she'd received wasn't the first. There had been others. Dozens of recordings sent over the years, ignored or destroyed. Someone had been trying to expose the truth long before Maya ever stepped onto that highway. The scale of it was staggering, but so was the response. Protests turned into policy reviews. Funding was redirected. A national task force was established under her leadership to prevent misconduct in law enforcement agencies. And through it all, Maya stayed the same, measured, grounded, unshaken. A week later, she stood once again on that same highway, the same stretch of road where everything had begun. The asphalt still shimmered faintly under the morning sun. For a long time she said nothing. Then she whispered, "You tried to scare me into silence, but you taught me something instead. You taught me how loud the truth can be." A car passed in the distance, its tires hissing against the pavement. She turned, heading back toward her vehicle. Her phone buzzed, another unknown number. This time, she answered. A man's voice spoke softly. "Director Reynolds? Just wanted to say thank you. You made people believe again." She paused, then said, "Don't thank me. Just don't stop watching." When she ended the call, the wind carried her words away down the empty highway. Justice, she realized, wasn't a finish line. It was a road, one that had to be walked again and again no matter how dark it got. And as long as she had a voice, she wasn't leaving it empty.